That a knockdown is not a knockout unless you stay down. You got to get back up again. You're not a champion because you were knocked down. You're a champion because you get back up. Challenges create champions.
Dr. Eddie Connor. He's been empowering people to overcome obstacles and walk in their unique purpose. Is the real life message shared by Dr. Eddie Connor, who is a survivor of, listen, guys, stage 4 cancer. Dr. Eddie is an empowerment speaker, college professor, and conference host of Vision Summit. He has also served as the president of the National Entrepreneurs Association of Michigan. As an author of 14 selling books and lists, I have one of his books right here. Dr. Eddie is the founder of the mentoring program of the Boys to Books, which empowers young males via literacy, leadership, and life skills enrichment. Dr. Eddie has been featured on ABC, BET, CBS, Ebony, Fox, Jet, Lifetime TV, NBC, PBS, The Steve Harvey Show, Tom Joyner Show, The Huffington Post, Mentoring Kings, and USA Today. He has been a guest on the Potter's Touch and was an empowerment speaker at Bishop T.D. Jakes Megafest. And he was featured as an acclaimed BET documentary, It Takes a Village to Raise Detroit. And Dr. Eddie is a recipient of the President Barack Obama's Volunteer Service Award and the President Barack Obama's Lifetime Achievement Award from the White House. That is so amazing. He is recognized as one of the top 35 millennial influencers in America, listed in the top 100 leaders in the who's who in the Black Detroit, named in Michigan's Chronicle Top 40 Under 40, and Author of the Year by Kingdom Image Awards. Listen, I could go on and on about Dr. Connor, but I do want to play an inspirational message from him.
A mentee asked a mentor, "What is life's greatest burden?" The mentor looked back at the mentee and said, "Having nothing to carry." The greatest burden and problem is in not finding a solution. Albert Einstein said, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." Here's the question: can you find a solution in a storm? You got to realize what you face helps you to face yourself. How can you fight what you refuse to face? How can you heal from what you won't deal with? How can you address what you refuse to confess? What have you been called to carry? Notice I didn't ask you who, because too many times, too many of us are carrying people who are weighing down our purpose. The worst burden to carry is the one you should have never picked up in the first place. Can you carry your purpose productively? Because at the end of the day, no longer is it a burden, but it now becomes a blessing. Such a great opportunity to be on your show, and you're really speaking truth to power, not just empowering people to be survivors, but also to be overcomers. And so, that's my
Mhm.
claim to fame, story behind the glory, so to speak. I'm a son of the city of Detroit, um, and grew up in Jamaica for part of my life. My parents were both missionaries to the island, so betwixt the American, Jamaican, Jamaican, if you want to say,
Mhm.
aspect, it was a great connection. I had one of my most challenging circumstances, talking about the burden that became the blessing, being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, chemotherapy, radiation, lost all my hair, self confidence, self esteem, lost my will to live. If we had the movie The Color Purple playing tonight, I tell you, just like Sophia, all my life
Had to
I had to
fight.
fight. And so to
Yes.
be a survivor alongside of you, I understand what the struggle is. October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, just much less cancer in general, to find the can in cancer. As the show says tonight, is the resilience for me. Big Sean said last night took a L, but tonight I bounced back. So to find your testimony in a test, turn your mess into a message, your misery into ministry, your stumbling block into a stepping stone, and to understand that God used your setback as a setup for your greatest comeback. He used your tragedy as strategy to move your
Yes.
life to the
Yes.
next level. And so, it's a blessing to be able to roll up my sleeves and now help people to overcome some of the things that I've been through.
I love
I
it.
love it.
So I
So
know
I
you
know
had
you had
cancer
cancer
early on in
early
your
on
life.
in your life.
Tell us a little
Tell us
bit
a little bit
about that
about that
experience and
experience
how
and
it is
how it is
dealing with
dealing
that
with
at a
that
young
at a
age.
young age. Yeah, I had cancer in high school. So, identity crisis is everything. You're trying to find out who you are. You're trying to fit in. You're trying to connect with other young people your age, and now you're placed in a precarious position place that to a certain degree, you're now dealing with obscurity, and in many cases, trying to find out who it is that you are. I love school. My favorite two classes in school were gym and lunch. I love to chase a good ACT and then sit down and eat with him at lunch. And so to be plucked out of high school because of a diagnosis, and not be able to be around the kids and be around people who are my age group and bracket, it was totally different for me. And beginning your life, now fighting for your life at such a young age, um, it was really totally life changing. And so, um, without a praying mama, I wouldn't be able to be here tonight as well. I really believe, as Scripture says, a trying of your faith worketh patience, patience experience, experience hope. Um, to understand that God didn't just bring us this far to only bring us this far. Um, and in many cases, we don't understand how strong we are until being strong is our only option. As a quote from the video tonight mentioned, the greatest burden is having nothing to carry. Paul had a thorn in his flesh, but he said, "Here it is, my grace is sufficient for you." And so I think just between the grit and grace and greatness is just the fact that uh, knowing that everybody has a historicity with God. We have something that we can always go back to the filing cabinet of our lives to recognize what He brought us through before. A lot of times we get amnesia when we get to a new struggle, and we forget that He brought us from a mighty long way before, and if He did it before, as Ty Tribbett said, He can do it again. And so, same God right now, same God right back then. And so I think that should muster up the determination that's on the inside of us to say, yes, I'm in a natural fight, but I got supernatural weapons. When I connect my natural to God's super, we can do something supernatural. And so it speaks to that determination, that never giving up. As Muhammad Ali said, the canvas is no place for a champion. You got to get back up again. My mama told me to take off the pity party hat. She said a knockdown is not a knockout unless you stay down. You got to get back up again. You're not a champion because you were knocked down. You're a champion because you get back up. Challenges create champions. It is that grit. It is going through that fire, but coming out as pure gold, and recognizing the grace of God that's on your life so that you can walk in greatness and then go back and pull somebody else up out of the fire that you were in as well, because you lived through dying places.
How did you get to do what you're doing right now?
I would say, really, everything I'm not made me everything I am, and I faced so many setbacks in my life. People who didn't think I would amount to much. I remember my guidance counselor in high school. She knew my favorite two classes in school were gym and lunch, and my grades were indicative of that. She said, "You're not going to college. Don't think about community college. Pick up a trade." But the same lady who told me I'd never go to college had to show up to my graduation from college. The people who didn't think I'd ever amount to much, that really became that grit. That became that engine for me. That became the competitive drive for me to think critical in chaotic times, to continue to recalibrate and reinvent myself and move into a place of restoration despite trauma, despite hardship, to persevere through dying circumstances and situations. And so I think sometimes being
the odd man out, being the black sheep, so to speak, one who was told what they never do, what they never become, what they never overcome. That all fueled me to, see how it is that I could develop something, not just for myself though, but to really bless other people and let other people know that, hey, God is no respecter of persons. I'm no better than anybody else. I want to show you how to overcome the stumbling blocks and situations that are in your life. And I think that's what it's all about. Service is the rent we pay for the space we occupy. I never wanted to be a writer in the first place. I wrote my first book with $1 and a dream to my name in a dorm room at my alma mater, Eastern Michigan University. And it was through uh, the guise and maybe I'll say kind of the naggingness of my mother. She was nagging me and she was telling me, "Hey, you need to write your story." I'm like, I'm too embarrassed to write about my story. I didn't want to share with anybody that had cancer at all. I was very embarrassed about it. But she said, your story's not for you. It's to empower somebody through what you've gone through. It's a testimony. And I said, all right, I'm gonna do this for you, so you could leave me alone about it. And I wound up doing it. But after you write the first book, everybody's asking for the second one. And it really was a blessing in disguise. Sometimes the greatest blessing is doing what you don't feel like doing, because as I was writing, I found out became therapeutic for me. As I was writing, I was healing. As I was writing, I was addressing the bitterness that I had to my father, who never showed up for me one day in the hospital and saw anything about me. I was writing about the people who had left me for dead, who I thought were praying for me, but were literally preying on me. I was healing from all of that. And as I started to just get a love for writing. And so, of course, it was everybody asking when the next one's coming. I'm starting to ask myself, when's the next one coming? And so I don't write from a space and place of trying to meet a quota or hit a certain number. If it doesn't drop on me, if I don't get a download from heaven, then I don't have anything to write. I have to wait. It's got to be a flow, not a force. So, I never saw myself being a writer, much less doing anything that I'm doing now. But, life is funny. Your road to destiny, it has a lot of detours, sometimes some destruction and then even distractions. And so to continue to have that determination and just try to give people new, fresh ideas and content. I try to keep a pulse on the temperature of what's going on uh, locally as well as globally, and whatever I feel a passion for. I just begin to put pen to paper and deliver as best as I possibly can. Yeah, it is tough because when you're going through adversity in a silo, silence can become so loud, and now you're almost taken to the edge of your mind, because doesn't matter how strong we are, we all need somebody. Lord said, "I'll never leave you nor forsake you," but you don't want to be left alone physically either, in the natural. And so it is something to where you do, if you don't have that support system, you have to, in many cases, dig deep within yourself. David said, "I will encourage myself in the Lord." And sometimes you have to be your own source of encouragement before he puts encouragers around you. You think about this when Jesus healed I believe it was the young girl who thought he said she was sleeping. Everybody else said she was dead. We would have categorized her as dead. He put everybody out the room. I think you have to take inventory of who is in your room, who is in your space and place of proximity, because it does you no good to just have people around you who will not come to your rescue, but just come to your funeral. It does no good to have people around you who are worriers and not warriors. It does no good to have any people around you if they're chickens and not eagles. It does no good to have people around you if they're just speaking death when you're now trying to breathe life into the situation. And so you and God are a majority when others would who are negative in many cases are a minority. And so I think it is from that specific place and space to where you have to discern the difference between who's for you, who's around you, and who's really trying to surround you. And I think as a result of that, it clears the clutter. I unfortunately didn't have a great space and place of people who are great supporters, but I had a praying mama, and I had God on my side, and with that, I'm still here. So it's until the whole collection of people comes who are with you. Sometimes uh, being in a Gideon fight is better than trying to be with an army of 3,000. I'd rather be with 300. It is like the show says, it's the resilience for me. Sometimes I am. I don't know if really balance is always viable. I heard T.D. Jakes say something one day. He said, some days I'm gonna be a better preacher than I am a father. Some days I'm gonna be a better uh, father than I am a husband. It's sometimes a seesaw aspect. You're trying to find the balance. The song said, I had some good days, I had some hills to climb. I had some bad days, I had some weary days, but I won't complain. So I think it is trying to find as much balance as you possibly can. And here's the thing, I realize as much as I try to do on my own, it, you don't go as far as your dream, you go as far as your team. Um, Teamwork makes the dream work. And I think in the midst of us trying to help everybody, in the midst of us trying to do all that we possibly can do on a day-to-day basis, what we fail to do oftentimes is we fail to put ourselves in our own schedule. And as a result, as a consequence, now we're pouring from an empty cup. And here's the thing, many times we're pouring into people who have holes in their cup because we got so many people who make more withdrawals than deposits in our lives. We have to put ourselves on our own schedule. We have to adhere to self-care, taking time for mental health to release and relieve the stress of what it is that life brings. And sometimes even take a mental health day. I know for many pastors, Mondays seem to be the day for them. But then there is many times for many pastors and leaders, Monday is the day that they die. They die after oftentimes pastors who have left this planet because they didn't get the support and love trying to preach to people who just sat on them, didn't encourage them, didn't inspire them, didn't pour back into them. We all need people to pour back into us. And so as much as we try to do on our own, I'm learning and trying to get better at balance and self-care myself, so that I can not just run a sprint, but run a marathon. Yeah, that's a great topic. That's a great point that you make. I am the poster guy for not listening to their body. When I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, don't be me. Go the opposite way. When I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, I was having chest pains for about 2.5 to 3 weeks, and I didn't want to say anything. My mom had to stop me in the hallway, and she said, something doesn't seem to be right with you. Is everything okay? And of course, I'm like, yeah, everything is cool. I was lethargic. I was sleeping in class. Wasn't as active as I generally was, and I was pretty much an athletic guy. We are so indoctrinated and socialized as boys becoming men that pain is weakness leaving the body. Going to the doctor is only for women, or is something that's not manly, because we don't want to hear what possibly might scare us if there is something that is wrong. Boys don't cry, only girls. Stand up, be a man. And that's not only what we just heard from the fellas, sometimes as we heard from women too. And so when you're hearing all that from a young age, and now you're experiencing an alarm in your body, that you need to check out, you ignore it because of all of the negative, deleterious terminologies that have been inculcated in your mind to where you're now at the point of death. It was stage 4 cancer that I was diagnosed with. When they cut me open, they took me to surgery, they could see my cells growing so fast they could see them growing with the naked eye. I was literally minutes away from leaving this planet simply because I didn't want to check on my health. When you talked about mental health, you can't spell the words mental health without men heal. And I think we have to, and I think slowly but surely our culture is moving to the place to us to honor our humanity as men, to heal from psychological pain, emotional incarceration, and the trauma of what it is that we carry. As Dr. Joy DeGroy talked about, post-traumatic slave syndrome, the generational trauma that we carry in our DNA. And so I think it's very, very important, not just pragmatic, but very practical for us to actually do the internal investigation on ourselves as men. Whether it's prostate cancer that's out there, whether it's high blood pressure, whether it's stroke and heart disease, all of those other specific things. And heart disease is one of the leading causes of death, especially amongst men. So I think really just having that conversation and ingraining that into our boys from a young age. If you're experiencing pain, don't hide it. Talk to me about it. Let's look at it. Doesn't make you less of a man, doesn't make you less of a boy. It makes you somebody who's practical, who actually cares about themselves. That's the highest form of care, self-care, awareness, and then going to check on yourself. So for me, it took a lot of healing to do that. And I'm now just trying to pass the baton and to let our brothers know you can do the same and check yourself out. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, as they said. Yeah, I think purpose is highly important. It's highly unique. I think purpose is about uniqueness. And I think really it's your uniqueness that makes the difference. Jeremiah 29:11, God said, I know what plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, to bring you a hope and a future. And I think really that's what purpose entails. It's the prosperity that speaks to the future and the hope that is within you. And I don't think your purpose is necessarily ahead of you. I think your purpose is inside of you. And I think too many times we're looking out rather than looking in. We've really got to be introspective about who it is that we are, the uniqueness, the tenacity that's within us, that our own idiosyncratic behavior makes us different. No particular fingerprint is alike. Identical twins is not totally identical. There's something that is unique within yourself internally, and I think the purpose is the why. We know what we want, we know when we want it, but I think we need to discover our why. Why is it that you were placed on this planet? Where are you going? Who do you see yourself coming with you? Who do you see yourself surrounding yourself by in the place and space of where it is that you're trying to go? And I think when we can really discover what our why is, our living becomes beyond just ourself, but it's about the development internally so that we can inspire other people. And I think when you really tap into your uniqueness, it unveils a greater level purpose-wise, but it also unlocks your greatness. And so really being introspective in that regard. What are you good at doing? A job is what you're paid for, but your purpose and your calling is what you're made for. And when you really tap into that, obstacles can come in your way, but you'll be able to hurdle like a sprinter, moving on to the next level. Prior to the pandemic, I was, I was still an entrepreneur. However, I was still, juggling the high school collegiate aspect. I taught high school for 12 years. Then was kind of moonlighting between high school and college. teaching night classes. And so, however, the pandemic, it really, I think, shrunk the world in a different way. We always said, the world is small because of technology, but I think it shrunk it even more. During the height of the pandemic, I literally went all around the world, Jamaica, Nairobi, Nigeria, South Africa, all throughout the United States, without jumping on a plane. I crossed the 7 seas on my couch, dressing from the waist up. And I think the pandemic really taught us something is, can you touch somebody without touching somebody? Can you be there without being there? Can you literally touch somebody's heart without using your hands? And I think it really spoke something to me that we have to literally 10x our gifts. And that is whatever you do best is what you should do most. For me, since 2020, I've written 5 books since 2020. Generally, it would take me 5 years to write 5 books. And so I decided to really hone in, develop my craft in a greater way, and really hunker down on what it is that I was created to do. Malcolm Gladwell, in his book Outliers, it says it takes about 10,000 hours for somebody to be great at what it is that they do. That's literally 5 to 7 years of dedicating yourself to being consistent and doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. People like yourself have spent 10,000 hours. A person like Beyonce, 10,000 hours. LeBron James, 10,000 hours. Your top doctor and leader and astrophysicist and scientist and economist has spent 10,000 hours studying, developing, honing their craft, being introspective. And, as we were relegated to our house, we literally had to get our house in order, not just the roof over our head, but the house of our heart, our mind, our soul, and our spirit. And I think if you came out doing the same thing in the same way, you need to revisit what it is that you're doing. Because if you don't evolve, you won't be involved. Great question. Because it can be seen as that. And I think it really is creating a safe space and place for a man to be vulnerable with you. And one of the ways is to take interest in what he's interested in. Sometimes it's just listening to him talk about the game and you don't even know what's going on. Right, you talk about first down. You like, what's down and what's first? If you don't understand that, and there's a lot of ladies who know football. So, but for those who don't, just being able just to be a listening ear, being able to be a sounding board. Here it is. A man is not just Superman. He's Clark Kent. We're more than just Black Panther. We're more like T'Challa. We're more than just the Hulk. We're really David Banner. After Superman is done flying around all day, he needs a safe space and place to be able to land. And so I think voicing your care, your concern in a tender-hearted way, I think that can get him to open up despite his ambivalence, much less his reticence to go to the doctor. Just expressing your care and your concern. Now, honey, I want you to be with me 11 years. so whatever we got to do to make that happen, listen, I'll be hand in hand with you. You still the man. You still the king. When you're telling him that he's the champion and he's the king and all of that, he can be able to let his guard down and not try to think this is weakness. I don't want to be vulnerable or you to see me as less than your provider, your protector, your priest, right? Just to be able to balance that. And, I think just being able to express that, he'll come around the mountain. Here he'll come slowly but surely. It may not be, an overnight process, maybe a through the night process. But if you continue just to work with him, I guarantee he'll eventually work with you. Yeah, the Eagles Academy is really a community of accountability. we really empower you to soar into success and purpose. We're putting your purpose in proximity, showing you how to turn your purpose into profit, showing you how to turn your ideas into income, your contacts into contracts. And it's such a great opportunity to network with like-minded leaders and individuals who are going where you want to be. It's tough to take constructive criticism from people who've never constructed anything. But in our space and place, you're around individuals who have constructed wisdom, guidance, and empowerment. And so eagles are individuals who don't fly away from the storm. They go into the storm, they soar into the storm, and they use the storm to go higher. Scripture talks about Isaiah 40:31. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as an eagle. And I guarantee you, if you spread your wings, you'll win. You got to do something different to get something different. You got to forsake the familiar. The most dangerous place you can be in life is not when you're walking on water, it's when you're staying in the boat. So I want you to launch out into the deep with us. I got over 150 hours of empowerment. We do our live sessions every single Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We teach on practical aspects, overcoming trauma, turning your ideas into income, the profit. We're doing a session on healing this coming Wednesday night at 7 p.m. You can't heal from it if you don't deal with it. You can't confess what you won't address. I can't address what you won't confess. And so being able to fight what you decide to face is what it's all about. So all you have to do is just go ahead and register. As you're watching me right now, go register at www.theeaglesacademy.com. And you'll be in our private Facebook group, all of those other aspects and ancillary things that we're affording to you and empowering you. And it's you're getting more value than even what we're charging you. So again, theeaglesacademy.com. It's not only explained, it's got to be experienced. I think one thing, especially as we think about, yes, Cancer Awareness Month, much less Breast Cancer Awareness Month. 2.5 to 3 million women have survived. Of course, I lost my best friend to cancer at the age of 7. Years later, I wound up fighting what he had lost his life from. And in many cases, a lot of times we have survivor's guilt because of me, losing a good friend of mine, even some cousin and aunt to it as well, and other friends and loved ones. I just want to encourage you not to quit. I want to encourage you to keep going. The race is not given to the swift or to the strong, but it's the one who endures to the end. There's a champion that's on the inside of you in the midst of the depression, in the midst of the adversity, in the midst of the pain, intolerance, in the midst of the spinal tap, the loss of hair, all of the things where you don't resemble yourself. But in the middle of the situation, you have to understand that oftentimes opportunity lies in the middle of difficulty. Somebody is waiting for you to become who you are so they can become who they're supposed to be. And there's something that's getting ready to take place and unveil itself in you in the middle of this, that outside of victory, it couldn't do it. But the victory is going to take place in the midst of the adversity. You're going to find victory in your valley. Whatever that valley is, you got to keep going. You got to keep pushing. You may cry, but you don't quit. Cancer made me cry, but it didn't make me quit. You got to know that weeping may endure for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. So I speak life over your life. I speak victory over your life. I speak that the pain and the adversity will be removed. I speak that healing is your portion. That purpose will come out of the midst of this pain. And God's going to unveil himself and do the miraculous in your life. Miracles, signs, and wonders are yours in Jesus' name.